I now call the December 16th, 2025 Finance Committee meeting to order at 6:45 PM. Consideration of claims. Chair would entertain a motion for the approval of claims.
Your Honor, I'd move to for consideration of claims to be paid in the amount of $568,659.31, Elon credit card in the amount of $7,783.77, annual checks in the amount of $233,196.78, payroll for 11/26/2025 and 12/11/2025 in the amount of $591,961.61 for a total of $1,401,601.47.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilwoman Johnson and a second by Councilman Bailey to recommend approval of claims to be paid in the amount of $568,659.31. Elon credit card in the amount of $7,783.77. Manual checks in the amount of $233,196.78. Payroll for November 26, 2025 and December 11th, 2025 in the amount of, my screen just went blank, in the amount of $591,961.61 for a total of $1,401,601.47. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes, and we gained a member. TAD reimbursement, Fremont Service Air Team, City of Riverton. Administrative Services Director's report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and members of the Finance Committee, included in your materials this evening is a tourism asset dollar reimbursement request from the Fremont Air Service Team related to commercial air service marketing expenses. This item is provided outside of the regular Finance Committee packet because the City of Riverton manages the finances for both the Fremont Air Service Team and the tourism asset dollars. And the funds would be maintained within the city's budget. So rather than issuing a check for the city to the city, staff is requesting an interfund transfer for approval by you tonight to transfer funds from the tourism asset dollar account to the Fremont Air Service Team in the amount of $7,500.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Chair would entertain a motion for the approval of the internal transfer of funds to the Fremont Air Service Team for the TAD reimbursement request.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Bailey and a second by Councilwoman Johnson. Is there any discussion, questions, comments, concerns?
Your Honor?
Yeah.
I have a question, Mia. Is this something we've already approved for them to get the money and we're just approving the transfer?
Mr. Chair, yes.
Okay, I thought so. All right.
Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Is there anything additional to come before the committee this evening, Director Harris?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Perfect. Without objection, we will adjourn the meeting at 6:49 PM.
Maya.
16th, 2025 regular meeting of the Riverton City Council to order at 7 p.m. Councilmember Larson has agreed to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, after which Councilwoman Borders will give us the invocation. If everyone could please rise and remove cover.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to meet tonight. We ask your guidance as we work together in our efforts to do what's best for our community. Strengthen us as we make tough decisions that are right for our citizens. We ask that you watch over our police and first responders who protect and serve us every day. Thank you for the many blessings that you have bestowed upon us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Ms. Harris, if you could please conduct the roll call.
Yes, Your Honor. Councilmember Eric Carr.
Here.
Councilmember Rebecca Brothers.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Bailey.
Here.
Councilmember Carla Borders.
Here?
Councilmember Kyle Larson.
Here.
Councilmember Karen Johnson.
Here.
Mayor Tim Hancock.
I'm here and declare we have a quorum. I'd entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda as it's been presented.
So moved.
Second?
Councilman Larson with the motion, Councilwoman Borders with the second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion passes. Council committee reports and council members roundtable. Let's go ahead and start with Councilwoman Brothers.
Excellent. I didn't have any meetings, but actually, I think I did. I think youth council we had youth council, and then we have youth council again tomorrow. And they are doing really great things. They're working on the snow angels, and actually, there's no snow, so that's probably good. So it works out because, it's in the process right now. So, but I think that we have a good plan going forth for that. And right now we have members sitting on a lot of boards in town, which is exactly what we want to see. We want to see youth working in the community with people. So what we want to happen is happening. So if you want to come tomorrow night, I think we have somebody, I talked to, I'm trying to find the email, but we have somebody, a new person in the community coming to talk to the kids tomorrow night. I think Patty Granlund is coming. And so we'll have new information in a couple weeks about what she's bringing forth for the kids with that. Yeah, and then I brought a guest with me tonight. My husband's here visiting for a few weeks. He says we're the best TV show on TV. So, Mayor Hancock always wonders if anyone's watching. He's watching. So
That's good. Now I know. I'll remember. I'll make sure to shout out to you next time.
yeah. Anyway, yep. So that's about it for me. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Councilwoman Brothers. Councilman Bailey.
Thank you. I attended the Festival of Trees here, not last week, but the week before. And it was awesome, as usual. Our wonderful color borders, of course, designed a lot of the trees, and a lot of really talented people in the community made some really beautiful stuff. And then, of course, it got auctioned off, and they raised about over $50,000 for community entry services, which again does a great job serving the people of our community. So that was awesome. Let's see. Forgot. Oh, I was at the Force Committee meeting, which we were talking about the priorities coming up for next year. Again, the Riverview Road project is started already. They're going to get half of it done this year and finish up next year. That's about a $2.8 million project that'll be split over 2 years. And so we probably won't have any other big projects next year. That will take up most of the budget we have. They're going to do, again, a bunch of more slurry sealing and just pavement maintenance type stuff. And then, again, we'll see if things come in under budget or, you know, a lot of it's related to sales tax. If our numbers keep improving, then we may have a little extra money to pull off some other projects. But that group is extremely frugal with the money that the taxpayers supply us to do that with. And there's never a lack of projects. There's a lot of streets that need work, and we're doing our best to get the best ones out there to be repaired, so. They've got a strenuous process on how they sort of rate the roads. We had a pavement quality index, I think it's called, that we do. And we look at how much traffic is on the different roads, and so we try to prioritize them to where we get the most bang for our buck, so. We had a 250th quincentennial celebration committee meeting with at the chamber office. Kyle and Carla and I are on that. And so we're planning a lot of neat things. Going to be mostly on the 3rd of July, so that we don't sort of steal any thunder from Lander and Du Bois, and we get people to come to ours, and they'll be too tired to go to the rest maybe or something. We'll see. So, but we have a lot of neat things planned, so. That's all I have, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Councilwoman Borders.
Well, Your Honor, I have not had any meetings. I missed the semi-quincentennial because of work. Sometimes it's hard to get away, so just to reiterate what Mike said, the Festival of Trees was amazing this year. We had some amazing contributors, designers, and it was very well attended. And I just want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas.
I had a question. In terms of how much CES raises, how does Dancing with the Stars compare to the Festival of Trees?
That I do not know.
Kind of curious. I know somebody who's on the
Pretty
CES
close.
board who could
It
probably.
is.
Yeah, pretty close to the same, I think. Yeah.
Your Honor, I'm sorry, I don't have that information.
I didn't think you did.
Oh, we have an audience member that might know.
That's a good point.
I was going to say, there might be another one.
Yeah.
Anyone else, Pat?
Councilman Larson?
Your Honor, I attended the solid waste meeting held in Lander. The gist of the whole story was we had some interesting debris come to our facility that had construction material on it at the top, and underneath we had some asbestos. And so we are going in a circle finding out who to point the finger at, but the DEQ was not pleased with it, neither was the Solid Waste Board. We accepted 3 bids for 2 trucks, brand-new trucks that we bought for $91,000, 2 4-door full bed pickups. They were both Chryslers, and that was a pretty unusually good bid. We bought a scraper and a dozer, and and they'll be delivered this year because they're used, 1,000 hours, 1,500 hours on them, and that was about it. Nobody committed suicide over the asbestos, but, we kept all of the sharp knives in the cupboard.
Wow. So somebody trying to
Well,
pick the easy way to get rid of asbestos.
asbestos, there has been a lot of companies go out of business because they sold asbestos, and there's about 82 or 100 billion dollars worth of funding that if you can prove you've got asbestosis and have some strange disease, you are given a free ride, but, to the graveyard, because your life expectancy is rather short. But if people have asbestos, they would just paint it and keep it from fracturing. They don't have to play with it or do anything to it. They just keep it painted like lead-based paint.
Yeah, don't just go remove paint in an old house, right?
Yeah, just
Paint over it.
paint over it, put Waltex over it, you know. Same with asbestos. Anyway, it was interesting. They're going to get an analysis on it and et cetera, et cetera. But when you're tearing an old building down, you've got to be careful.
You don't just get to take the asbestos to the local
No, well,
landfill.
no, you don't. Anyway,
No.
that's all I have, Your
All
Honor.
right. Councilwoman Johnson, I doubt you have anything to tell us about asbestos, but maybe.
I don't, actually. I did not attend any meetings. I did attend the community tree lighting, and that was very well attended. It seems like it's growing every year a little bit, and it was nice to see all the kids excited and having fun and hot cocoa and all that fun stuff. So it was good to get out and spend a little time doing that. Other than that, I've been just following up with the folks on various issues throughout the week. And I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, specifically to our staff, and saying thank you for all the hard work that you do all year long. It does not go unnoticed, and I wish everyone a Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Appreciate that. It was a good tree lighting, I agree.
It was,
I think it does get bigger every year, but not like a ton, just a little bit.
yeah, it's just, it started really small. There was maybe 30, 40 people the first year, and there was probably close to 100, 100.
There's a lot of people
this
there.
year. It's nice.
I did promise my daughter cookies, and they didn't have cookies this year. I'm not disappointed. I'm fine with it, but she was. She got hot chocolate, so it was okay.
I have to stop and get her some on the way home.
I could have done that. That's a good point. I'm glad I didn't, but, yeah. Councilman Carr?
Thank you, Your Honor. I also did not attend any meetings. There is no planning commission meeting following this week's meeting this Thursday. In the last 4 weeks, I have had opportunity to travel about 3,000 miles. So I just want to extend a very heartfelt thank you to the Public Works Department. The streets and the lights look amazing. Very, very well done, looks great. I also had cause to utilize our wonderful police department services. I would like to thank Officer Sullivan, Schwegler, and Lieutenant Martson for their assistance when I needed it. It was extremely professional and very well handled. Thank you. And then just a very heartfelt Merry Christmas to everyone. We're all going to be able to hopefully see our families and friends over the holidays. And please remember that there's a lot of folks out there that are really lonely. And if we can reach out to those folks and say hi and lend a helping hand, this is the time of year to do it. So other than that, Merry Christmas, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Carr. Mr. Butterfield?
Thank you, Your Honor. I too want to extend Merry Christmas wishes and Happy Holidays to the community and to everyone here, and appreciate what so many people do for our community. As it's already been mentioned, there are several events and activities that our families and friends can engage in as a community. And one I'd like to highlight was this Saturday where the mayor of Whoville was at Sutherland's. And I also know that the police department was able to escort Santa riding on a fire truck, and the police department had the cars set up as though they were 8 tiny reindeer leading the fire trucks. It was kind of fun. But we appreciate what's going on, and as a reminder, there will be a Santa fly-in this upcoming Saturday at Central Wyoming Regional Airport. Santa will be visiting us, flying in via helicopter at 3:30, and we'll be meeting with kids and family, and I think there's going to be hot chocolate and candy canes. So we appreciate this time of year and what everyone does in our community to make it an enjoyable time for everyone.
Question. Will there be cookies? I just asked for Cordelia, just so I know. I don't want to promise cookies if they're not going to be there. Cookies with hot cocoa. Those are Santa free.
So if you didn't hear that, Public Works Director, Mr. Tolman, did confirm there will be cookies.
Okay. I'll let her know this time then.
Your Honor, I thought it'd be appropriate to mention, as we are coming to the end of the calendar year, that the tourism asset development program that you help manage that's offered through the Wind River Development,
Wind River Visitors Council.
Yes, thank you, Wind River Visitor Council. Went very well. The council allocated $79,000 to be used to support different activities throughout the community. To date, there have been requests for reimbursements to the tune of $65,400. And I know that there are some outstanding requests, and I've allowed them to provide those before the end of the calendar year. So you will see potentially a few more of those reimbursements on your upcoming finance packet, but the majority of the funds have already been used, and they've been used for good purpose. As we look to the next calendar year, you as a council will have opportunity to solicit interest from the community and make awards for the TAD program. But I wanted to at least mention that $65,000 has already been reimbursed to community organizations. The police department will be swearing in a new patrol officer at the upcoming meeting, and we're very excited to welcome that individual. And then also, they will hold tests this Saturday for the final vacant position, and we look forward to seeing how the applicants fare as they work through the background process and also the physical test process. But appreciate the efforts of the police department to ensure that we are staffed and responding to our community's needs. Mr. Tolman has provided a few updates that I'd like to work through as well. In line with the council goals and then also with the work session the council had on promoting public safety, the Public Works Department has been working with Rocky Mountain Power to install more streetlights. They highlighted an area of concern that's just off of Riverview Road and Hill Street and Mary Drive. This is an area where we see a lot of pedestrian traffic as well as vehicular traffic, and the Public Works Department was able to coordinate the installation of new lights at the location of crossings in these areas, and we're excited that they're going in, and they are also in line with what the council has prioritized this year. The street sweeper that was previously inoperable has been repaired and is back in the community, so you will have hopefully seen that around. We're happy to see that working. And then again, we're waiting for the delivery of the newly purchased street sweeper, and we hope to receive that late winter, early spring. Advertisements for a consultant to provide engineering services for the Main Street Water Transmission Line project are currently out. This consultant will help finalize the plans for the subsurface utilities to then be included in the YDOT plan set that they'll bid out as they look to improve that corridor in 2027. And then should make reference that the airport board will be meeting at City Hall this Friday. It will be a working meeting as they look through the different rates and charges that are currently in place at Central Wyoming Regional Airport, and as they compare those against other airports in the state and in the region. We definitely welcome the public to attend that, and that begins at 8 a.m., again, here in the council chambers. And with that, Your Honor, I'd be happy, I have one other item, and then I'll stand for questions. I want to highlight the work of Administrative Services Director Mia Harris. She's very diligent as she works through our audit process. I can't tell you how many times that our auditors compliment Ms. Harris on her ability to provide the information they request in a very timely and professional manner, which makes the audit process go smooth and quickly. And so it's a testament to her organization and how she runs her department, and I want to commend her for that. Along the lines of the audit, the city and the auditors have requested an extension to the deadline, which is the end of the calendar year. The purpose for that extension relates to our single audit that's required by the federal government as it relates to some of the projects that we do that receive federal funds. We weren't able to receive all the information from the federal government that was required for that single audit because of the protracted government shutdown. And the state has requested, rather than receiving our city's audit at one time and then our single audit at a separate time, they'd like to receive both at the same time and have granted an extension for January 10th. And then we are scheduled to have our auditor present to you on January 20th. And with that, Your Honor, I'd be happy to stand for any questions if you have them.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Butterfield. And thank you, Mia, for your hard work on that. I know that that just is all consuming in terms of time when we have auditors here. And anytime I've had them speak to me, you know, part of what they do is they'll make calls just to verify as part of their process. And anytime they've spoken to me, they've spoken very highly of you. So keep up the great work and appreciate what you've been doing. Okay, so yes, Sutherland's, I was able to go and assist Santa with giving out teddy bears, different stuffed animals, kids. My wife had a costume as the mayor of Whoville from the movie. It's pretty elaborate. You could probably find pictures if you really wanted to online.
Nice.
It was a lot of fun. I will say, having 6 kids and having brought each of them to see Santa at different times in their lives, usually when they're young, not when they're older, being able to help with it was more fun than I thought it would be. So really enjoyed that, and I really appreciate the group that put that on, the Christian Motorcyclist Association, and just wanted to know how enjoyable that was and how much I appreciated the police department and the fire department for leading us down Main Street. Everybody stopped and was waving, and it was a good time. Main Street and Federal, I should say. So, also attended the Christmas tree lighting. I would echo what has already been said. That's a great event. I look forward to it every year. And I don't know if people understand that event is not put on necessarily by the city. I mean, we help out getting it done, and our Streets and Alleys crew, which sounds a little bit weird. They're the ones that put up all the lights on the Christmas tree, which, by the way, please express my thanks to them. They do a great job every year. But the Streets and Alleys crew, they do it because they put the lights up along the decorative light poles. So you see when you're going down Main Street, we have those lights along the decorative light poles. So that's their job as part of their other duties as assigned to do that. And so one of the other duties as assigned is to decorate that tree that's in front of the depot. So that we help with that, but when it comes down to it, this is a small group that doesn't even, I think, have a name. They were formerly part of the chamber, so this is part of the folks that were there, used to be part of the Parks Committee many years ago, and then they got subsumed kinds of into the chamber, and now they're just, for lack of a better word, it's just a small group of individuals that just every year they have the same assignments, they just go and they do it. And it was a ton of fun. So I really appreciate their hard work, and I know a few people that are on it, but because I don't know everybody's name, I'm not going to go through and name them all. So next year, I'll try to be prepared with the names of everyone of this group that puts it on. But they do a good job, and part of them were there, and it was a lot of fun. We also, in a unique situation on Monday night, had a menorah that was lit over here in front of City Hall. That was great to celebrate Hanukkah, and look forward to that continuing. I had the chance to attend the youth council, good group of, I want to say kids, youth. I also read through their minutes, and I was impressed with how well the secretary does at keeping the minutes.
Caitlin's amazing.
She's incredible, and they ran a good meeting. They did a good job. They did not make the meeting go as long as they could, or as long as some city council meetings may go. I didn't look at Councilwoman Johnson for any reason other than we've had conversations about it.
Apologetic for that.
Neither am I. It's good.
She wasn't here
Your
for the
Honor.
longest meeting ever, though.
That's true.
I forgot to mention,
Alan.
I was at the menorah, the lighting, you know, it was really fun, yeah.
Yeah. I had office hours and I was able to go by while they were doing their thing out there.
Mr. Butterfield was there as well, and it was a nice, very warm, inviting event.
Yes. But that's really about all I've had going on. We do have FCAG coming up this next week, so I'll attend that. I would like to wish all of our staff and the community Merry Christmas, however you celebrate. I hope that it's an enjoyable holiday season. I would echo what Councilman Carr said. There's a lot of us that Christmas is an enjoyable time of year that we celebrate and love being around our loved ones. And for some people, it's a uncomfortable reminder that they're alone. Either they've had family members who have passed or they've had other pains that have occurred during that time. And I'm not saying that we can solve all of that for people. Of course we can't. But I would say of all the times that we can be a little bit more cognizant of our neighbors, be a little bit more willing to take a few minutes and say hi to them, check in on them, see if there's anything that they need from us. Give them your phone number. I know that we live in a small community, but sometimes we forget that. Most of my neighbors have my phone number, not all of them. Not that I'm saying that's purposeful, but, you know, if my dog gets out or something's going on, I appreciate that my neighbors know how to get a hold of me. And so I just would encourage you to try to pay more attention to them and realize that they might have a lot going on internally that you might not be aware of. And so would encourage you to really try to do your best to be more community-minded at this time of year. And I will be trying to do the same. So thank you, everybody, for all that you do. And I will say, there's a lot of great community members out there, and I have seen that many times. The Youth Council, for example, setting up this, idea of shoveling snow for people. People already do that all the time without having anything organized. I know the cul-de-sac I live in, I often have. There's a gentleman down the street who has a snowblower who just, I don't know, he's bored, and so he just goes through and snow blows all the sidewalks. He's retired.
I have somebody in mind.
So I'm not saying he's bored. He's got a lot of family and everything. But I just really love that, and I love that we do that as a community. We try to check in on each other. So thank you, everyone who does that, and please continue. All right, next up, we have communication from the floor, citizens' comments. If there's anything on the agenda that you would like to speak to the council about, and I would encourage you to come up and get my attention when that agenda item is called, and just catch my eye, raise your hand, whatever you need to. But if there's something that's not on the agenda that you want to speak about, you could speak about it now. Whether you speak about it later or you speak about it now, I'd ask you to keep your comments to 5 minutes for individuals. I'll usually set a timer on my phone. If you're a part of a group and you want to kind of split your time up between your group, I'd ask you to keep your comments to 10 minutes. Whether it's when the item is called or whether it's right now, I'd also ask you to keep your comments to the topic on hand. So if it's something that is about an ordinance, I'd ask you to keep your comments to that ordinance. Address all questions and comments to me. It's just parliamentary procedure, so we aren't talking over each other. And I'd ask you to refrain from using fighting words or directly getting into attacks on another individual. So if you'd like to come up and speak, this would be a time to do that. I'd ask you to come up to the podium, identify yourself. You don't have to tell us where you live. You don't have to prove that you live in the city of Riverton to speak to the council. But just identify yourself by name and let us know what you want. Anyone who wants to speak?
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. I'll never turn down an opportunity to speak.
We know.
You know, yeah. So I thought it would be well suited to provide an update on where WRTA stands. By the way, Tim Nichols, Wind River Transportation Authority Director. For those who don't know, and I haven't been here in a while, there's been a lot going on. But I thought I would provide kind of a system overview as we have closed out November and the ridership is impressive. So in total, in November, WRTA transported 3,636 persons, of which 1,044 were fixed route riders and 2,592 were demand response. Demand response services remain the primary transportation mode for Riverton residents, and which leads perfectly into the integration with the Riverton Senior Center and where we find ourselves at. I did have an opportunity last week with my new operations man. Do you want to handle? No. Now he's mad I am. So this is Glenn McCauley. He's our new operations manager at WRTA. He and I had an opportunity to attend the RTAP, the National RTAP conference last week in Austin, Texas. And it was warm and it was wonderful. And here we are back in Wyoming and it's warm and windy, but wonderful. So nevertheless, we did take away, I think, from the majority of speakers there that the new coin term, not being demand response, is microtransit. And it comes in various forms, and it is much simpler to operate than 24-hour advance scheduling. But nevertheless, moving forward, we will be implementing microtransportation in the Riverton area in place of demand response.
Nice.
So what does the numbers look like? Because I don't know about you, but I was very, very eager to see how this integration would go and how it would grow. In October, which was the initial rollout, we transported 873 passengers. Not bad. November, 876. Not bad. But where we really started seeing, once Glenn, myself, and started playing with the dials a bit, in December, 16 days into the month, we have transported 675 passengers in the Riverton area. So, far from our goal, because we're highly competitive at WRTA, and we did find out last week from Buffalo Senior Center Director that they're transporting 87 to 120 passengers per day, and we just can't stand for that. So, we're going to continue to drive forward with Riverton microtransportation, and I am very impressed with the Riverton community for many reasons, but the other is I wish I could say we, but I live in Lander. I must divulge that information, but nevertheless, I am proud to take the whooping that Riverton is laying on us as far as Safe Ride ridership goes as well. Very well done. Safe Ride transportation overall between Lander and Riverton, I'll admit I didn't break it out, 601 for the month of November. So we are moving and starting to move people and moving them very well and effectively. Also, I just want to brief, because we can't stand still or sit still at WRTA. We are engaging with information we were able to gather at the RTAP conference in a fixed route redesign. Our metrics are quite off. When running the numbers when we got back, we are at 0.09 passengers per mile, which is really, really low, even for rural transportation standards. And so we've met with a few stakeholders. We're going to engage in a pretty comprehensive service redesign of our fixed route offerings in hopes we can make make that as effective and efficient as our demand response is or microtransit is operating. So WRTA expects to share preliminary findings and proposals, obviously after we talk with the board on Thursday, of a service redesign for fixed route And any recommendations will prioritize efficiency, reliability, and responsible, as always, responsible use of public dollars. Yeah, that's all I got. I do want to take one opportunity to embarrass Glenn as well. Glenn, would you mind standing up?
Come on up, Glenn.
Come on.
It'll be okay.
So one thing that we've done kind of under the radar, but if you wouldn't mind taking your jacket off, because he did win this jacket, mind you, at the Wyoming State Bus Rodeo, and so he's got a nice jacket saying he's a third place winner. So good on that. But he has got on the new WRTA uniform. So all drivers will now have a very professional look to them. I'd say it's professional. They picked it out themselves. So we kind of took team input. We've got some royal blue going on with some silver. We got black jackets though, so not as creative. But I would say as an organization, WRT is moving forward with a very professional image in doing so effectively and transporting primarily Riverton residents. So thank you, council and mayor. And if you have any questions, I would love to answer them.
Sounds good.
Nice.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols.
Thank you.
I guess just to summarize in terms of, right now, WRTA has got 3 programs that you've been talking about. The first one is Safe Ride, which functions if someone needs a ride, especially on the weekends, that's when that's operating. Ensuring that they're getting from the bars to home or home to the bars, vice versa. Number 2, so that's kind of that's a demand response sort of thing. Then you have demand response, which is the majority of your ridership right now.
Yes.
And that's people calling you and saying, I need a ride from point A to point B. You have a fare system for that based on how far out they're going. Not like a taxi cab where it's based on every single mile is charged a certain amount, but it's a fixed amount based on the radius, I guess, where they're starting, where they're going. And then you have the fixed route, which is the traditional bus lines where you're seeing the buses going around the community. Those are the main programs you've got going on, right?
That's correct.
All right, just translating for anyone who was curious. Thank you, Mr. Nichols.
Your Honor.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Well, mine's not about this, but I still
Okay.
wanted to say something.
I'm just wondering if you could give us kind of a rundown on micro transportation, what that means.
All right.
Or do you want to wait until after FCAG?
Nope. Well, I'll attempt to keep it as brief as I can. So microtransportation encompasses a lot of things. Typically, in order to run it effectively, you have to zone out your systems. And correct me if I get a number or a data point off. You have to keep your service area somewhat refined, and in this case, it's Riverton city limits, in order for it to run effectively. Typically, it's what you'll see with Uber or Lyft or something to that effect, where it's same-day service, but it's in a relatively short window. We try 15 minutes. I'm going to tell you we're not there yet. But we're trying, and this is where Glenn's job becomes really complicated, is we're kind of in that transition period where we're moving from 24-hour advance notice, where it's pre-scheduled, and hybrid model of trying to do same-day add-ons. And he learned in one of his classes, and I think it's a direct quote, that you just got to rip the Band-Aid off. It's all same-day scheduled. So we're going to work on that because, change is hard for everybody, and there's been a lot of change really quick. But it also fits into the multimodal service offering. So it provides that first and last mile access within a community. And so if we can provide fixed route service effectively and transport people around the community, then they can rest assured that when they get to Riverton, they will have microtransit access for that first and last mile to and from their commuter line service.
So in other words, the more that you work on and focus on microtransit, your fixed routes are going to become not smaller, but you'll have fewer stops, because the idea would be you're stopping at one place in Riverton and then from there could get a ride to wherever you need to go. Is that about right?
That is about right. Keeping in mind that it was reaffirmed through all of the speakers there that fixed route, especially in a community like Riverton, still has its place. And by all accounts and data points, The only place in Fremont County that should be receiving direct what would be called intercity fixed route service is likely Riverton. We've kind of built the plane backwards, if that makes sense. I think it was originally designed with different providers in different areas. But WRTA was serving kind of commuter route transportation from community to community without having built in an internetwork, so like a Riverton fixed route. When it's applied, as most agencies have applied it, you would have a fixed route network in Riverton, and then those micro transit zones would function around that fixed route service. So it's not as broad of an area as the entire city limits. It would be kind of segmented into zones within Riverton.
Maybe centered around the fixed route.
Yeah.
Councilwoman Brothers.
Yes, I thank you, Your Honor. I have a couple questions. So, Tim, it's good to see your face. And then, are you sticking around? Because one of our ordinances tonight, I have a few questions for you. If you're not sticking around, I want to ask them now. But if you're sticking around, then when we get to it, I want to.
I think my wife would really enjoy I say I don't plan on sticking around.
So may I ask the questions now, then?
Sure.
Okay, so when we get for ordinance 25010, it's talking about notification of intoxicated individuals. So how is your Safe Ride? You guys do Safe Ride right now. How's that working? Is it working well?
It's working great.
So my question is, and we're going to get to this, and you're not going to be here, but the idea is for, a bar to notify police. Is that the idea? Well, what if we called you instead? Are they doing that? Is a bar, like, what is happening? Are individuals calling, I guess I have a few questions. Are individuals calling Safe Ride? Are bar owners calling Safe Ride? Who is calling Safe Ride right now? And would it work, in your opinion, do you think, instead of calling police, do you think it would be better for us to call Safe Ride and get the individuals home?
Certainly. Yeah, the short answer is yes. Bar owners are calling, the bartender is calling, the individual is calling. So all the above. Would it work? I mean, absolutely. It's based on demand. So, I mean, the ride might take 15, it might take 20 minutes. Riverton has done such a good job that we have had to introduce a second vehicle on the weekends in Riverton. So you should see response time go down. So absolutely, they should call 856-WRTA, or they can download the CTS Trip Portal app now and request the ride themselves. Our dispatch staff's always happy to take the phone call, though.
Excellent. That gives us something to talk about. My next thing is, what are you doing on January 16th and 17th? Because last year I tried to recruit you as a judge for speech and debate, and that is what we're doing. And please, 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 I forgot to mention this. I would love it if we could get some, of our community to judge for us. But you are such a good speaker that you would be a wonderful, wonderful judge for us. 1 or 2 rounds, please. And yes?
Let's follow up off.
You can bring your wife. You can bring your wife. We will feed you. We get, and we usually bring in food trucks, but we also feed you wonderful things. And we have the kids from the youth council and plus other kids that, come on, that work really hard at this. Come on, Tim.
Check my calendar and get back to you.
How about, yes. It's good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols.
Thank you.
I think we can let you go now. Anybody else wish to speak? Okay, we'll move on. Administrative Services Director, could you please read the consent agenda items by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Minutes of the December 2nd, 2025 regular council meeting. Minutes of the December 16th, 2025 Finance Committee meeting. Finance Committee recommendations for December 16th, 2025. Municipal Court report for the month of November 2025.
Thank you. Any items requiring further discussion? Finance Committee.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Finance Committee met at 6:45 this evening and recommend payment of claims to be paid in the amount of $568,659.31. Elon credit card in the amount of $7,783.77. Manual checks in the amount of $233,196.78. Payroll for November 26, 2025 and December 11, 2025 in the amount of $591,961.61 for a total of $1,401,601.47.
You had to have practiced that.
I just sit and read it the whole time.
Do you have, was there also
Oh, yes,
recommendation for CAD reimbursement?
apologize. We also did approve the internal transfer of funds for the Fremont Air Service team for the TAD reimbursement request. That would be an internal, so that we're not cutting a check from the city to the city.
Okay. All right, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as been presented.
So moved.
Good.
Councilman Bailey with the motion, Councilwoman Borders with the second. Any discussion?
Your Honor, I'll abstain from the Bailey Enterprises line item on the Finance Committee report.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. I vote aye, motion passes. All right. Consideration of ordinance 25009, second reading, liquor license violation point system. Mr. Butterfield, tell us about this one.
Thank you, Your Honor. The existing Riverton Municipal Code addresses disciplinary actions as it relates to liquor licenses, specifically Section 504180. The section currently authorizes the governing body, following a hearing, to impose progressive penalties for violations of any laws, city codes, or rules related to the liquor license within a 3-year period. On October 14th, the City Council held a work session and reviewed several issues as it relates to Riverton Municipal Code and the liquor license process. From that meeting, the council requested for 3 ordinances to come forward. This was one of the ordinances requested by the council to come forward, specific as it relates to Section 504180. The city council was hoping to promote a points system to ensure consistency, fairness, and transparency in the administration of liquor license violations. The proposed ordinance establishes that points system, but I think, Your Honor, it may be valuable if I spend a little time reviewing the language of how the existing ordinance reads and how it compares to what the proposed ordinance reads. I'd also like to note that this was considered on first reading after public hearing, and the City Council had requested that we include language to allow for the city clerk to act when notified by the circuit court, not just the municipal court, and also some verbiage change from an and to an and/or as it relates to violations of municipal code and state statute, meaning it didn't have to be both, it could be an and/or. So the ordinance before you tonight incorporates both those changes as requested from first reading.
Okay.
When you consider the current Riverton Municipal Code, it already outlines violations as it relates to the operation of a liquor license, which by state statute and Riverton Municipal Code is a privilege and not a right. Currently, it states that the city wishes to establish a system for suspension and revocation of a liquor license or permit. That's how it currently reads. It then talks about after proof of violation has been provided, that sufficient grounds for suspension or recommendation of revocation of a license may be assessed with a civil penalty at this discretion of the governing body. You currently have that power as it's written in your municipal code. It also states that the governing body may impose progressive penalties for multiple violations of any laws, city codes, and rules within the preceding 3-year period. So if there is a liquor licensee who has an agent that violates law as it currently stands, you as a council have opportunity within a 3-year period to impose progressive penalties specific to the liquor license, whether that would be suspended or revoked or put on another type of penalty or warning. The existing Riverton Municipal Code has a table that lists the violations as it relates to what is required to operate as a liquor license holder. The proposed ordinance does not change that list of violations. We're not changing or creating laws as it relates to the operation of the liquor license. It's more about the administration of penalty is what's being proposed. Current ordinance states that no later than 30 days following the disposition of a charge which results in a conviction to a liquor licensee, agent, or employee of a liquor violation in municipal court, the court shall report the following information to the city clerk, meaning upon a conviction, the court must notify the city clerk. Once notified, the city clerk then notifies the license holder of the conviction and the violation. The city clerk also submits the violation to the governing body, and the governing body may hold a hearing that's outlined in the current code. So once a conviction happens, and this is the current process, the court notifies the city clerk, and the city clerk notifies the licensee and you as the governing body. The current ordinance then empowers the governing body to hold a hearing with the license holder. And the purpose of that hearing is to allow the license holder to provide any facts as they feel is important that may or may not have been considered by the municipal court in the conviction that had already taken place. It also allows for the governing body to determine whether the liquor licensee should face restrictions or suspension of the liquor license. It further explains, and again, this is the current process, that the governing body may issue a written warning, require a mitigation plan for the violation. It may also order a fine and/or a suspension of the license. And that suspension will remain in effect until the governing body lifts the suspension. So there's nothing definite in the ordinance as it's currently written now for that penalty. It vests that with you as a governing body, and you as a governing body can determine at the time of the hearing the amount of the penalty as far as a fine goes, the length of a suspension, or the written warning as already listed. That provides a brief rundown of the current Riverton Municipal Code as it relates to penalties for violations of a holder of a liquor license. I'd now like to explain a little bit more in detail what the proposed ordinance does. The proposed ordinance attempts to provide a more objective and quantitative process to applying penalties when violations result in a conviction in municipal court or in circuit court. Similar to the existing system, when a violation leads to a conviction in court, the court clerk notifies the city clerk. Now, we can obligate the municipal court to notify the city clerk. We cannot obligate the circuit court. However, there is language in there now that if the circuit court so chooses to notify the city clerk, they can, and then the city clerk takes action. But in the instance of the municipal court, similar to the existing ordinance, no later than 30 days following the disposition of a charge which results in a conviction for an alcoholic beverage violation as noted in this ordinance or state statute, the court shall report the following information to the city clerk. That information is that the fact that the licensee, permittee, or employees or agents of a licensee or permittee have been convicted of a violation of city code, and the date of the alleged violation, and whether the municipal court disposition has been appealed. For purposes of this section, and this is existing language, by the way, a conviction includes the finding of guilt after trial and a plea of guilty or a plea of nolo contendere. Excuse me.
You can just say no contest.
Thank you. So the court has an obligation to provide that information to the municipal city clerk. Where we see a change is rather than just notifying the governing body and the licensee of the conviction, the current change states that the city clerk, upon receiving such information from the municipal or circuit court, shall provide the licensee with a notice of the violation and an opportunity for hearing before a hearing examiner. It then goes on to say that if the licensee chooses not to have the hearing examiner consider the matter, that points that are established in this ordinance will be ascribed against the liquor licensee. If the licensee chooses to have the matter go before a hearing examiner, it's important to note that the hearing examiner is a third party that will consider the facts of the conviction and the potential penalty against the license. The licensee will have opportunity to present their case, and the hearing examiner is required to produce a findings of fact and conclusion of law prior to issuing a recommendation of penalty. As it relates to penalties, the hearing examiner can order no assessment of points against the licensee's license for the violation and no penalty. The hearing examiner may order the assessment of points against the licensee's license as described in the point schedule proposed in this ordinance, and issue a warning, fine, or suspension as also outlined in this ordinance. The hearing examiner may also order the assessment of points against the licensee's license and order no penalty due to the mitigation of the violation by the licensee. So the ordinance that's proposed gives that authority to the hearing examiner based on their findings of fact and conclusions of law. If the licensee does not agree with the findings of fact and conclusions of law or the proposed penalty ascribed by the third-party hearing examiner, the licensee still is afforded due process and may appeal the decision to you as the governing body. You as the governing body would then determine if the hearing examiner acted arbitrarily or capriciously, or whether they acted outside of what is required by the law, or if it was unsupported by substantial evidence. If in the instance that the licensee chooses not to go before a hearing examiner, points would be ascribed against the licensee. The point schedule is listed in the table that's provided in the ordinance. Penalties associated with those points are as follows. 25 points in a 12-month period shall receive a $250 fine and any cost for a hearing. 50 points in a 12-month period shall receive a $500 fine and any cost for the hearing. 75 points in a 12-month period shall have the license suspended for not more than 3 days, and any cost for the hearing, shall be paid to the city. 100 points in a 12-month period shall have the license suspended for not more than 5 days. And then it also states that it is declared to be a gross violation of this chapter and for the purposes of license revocation as provided in state statute. For a license to have its license suspended 3 times in any 12-month period. In the event of that defined gross violation, the city council may authorize the city attorney to file a petition to the district court pursuant to state statute to revoke the licensee's license. I know we took a little bit more time on that, but I hope that's helpful in clarifying what currently exists in the statute as it relates to penalties for violations of law and what's proposed as it relates to the penalties for violation of law. As the city council considered this idea during its work session, the benefit that it discussed was removing anything arbitrary as it relates to the assignment of penalty for convicted violations. It also had discussion that this would provide clarity not just to the governing body itself, but also to the license holders, so that if they were convicted of a violation, they would have a clear understanding of what that violation could lead to as far as penalty goes, outside of just a hearing before the governing body that could lead to an indefinite suspension or an undefined attribution of fines or a warning. Your Honor, I hope that helps clarify the ordinance that's before you tonight on second reading as it relates also to the existing ordinance. It was also requested on first reading that staff reach out to other communities that currently operate a point system. I successfully spoke to the city clerk of the city of Laramie. They had communicated that in their tenure with the city, particularly after compliance checks, they would find violations that would lead to convictions and the attribution of points. And this would happen every single year in the sense that with a compliance check and with a conviction, they found that they would be attributing points against the violating license holder. They also communicated that in their tenure, which was roughly 7 years with the city of Laramie, only on 2 occasions had a licensee requested their right to go before a hearing examiner or a third-party hearing examiner. On both of those occasions, the licensee chose to pull back from that request and not have the hearing. I couldn't state as to why that happened, but that was the information that was provided by the city clerk for the city of Laramie. I also reached out to the city clerk for the city of Cody, and we have yet to have opportunity to touch base on this matter. Your Honor, I appreciate the opportunity to run through that and would be willing to stand for any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Mr. Butterfield. Ms. Harris, could you read ordinance 25009 by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Proposed ordinance number 25-009 on second reading, an ordinance amending Title V, Business Licenses and Regulations, Chapter 5.04, Alcoholic Beverages, Section 15.04.180, Revocation, Suspension of a License or Permit, Violations and Penalties of the Riverton Municipal Code, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. I'd entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 25009 on second reading.
So moved. Second.
Councilwoman Johnson with the motion, Councilman Carr with the second. On to discussion. I just want to clarify a few things here. I wrote down a couple of notes that I want to go through because this is something that I'm in support of, and I just want to be clear for our liquor license holders why. So there's obviously understandable concern over this in terms of any changes when it's something that affects your livelihood, is something that's going to make you nervous. This is not something that is giving the council, in my opinion, more power or putting license holders at greater risk. This is already in the code in terms of the requirements and the possibilities, but it does fix language in our code that's vague enough that it's difficult to enforce fairly, consistently, and or even enforce at all. Our ordinance technically, right now, gives the council discretion to suspend or revoke a license, but it provides very little structure around that. It doesn't provide direction for how violations are tracked, how a license holder is notified. It doesn't provide that they're given an opportunity to fix problems even. In practice, I think this means that issues could go unaddressed until we get to the point of renewal. And then, let's say we get to renewal, liquor license holders come here and they're like, we're going to ask the same questions we usually ask, which is, have there been any issues with any of the license holders? Yeah, I've been on the council for many years. We ask that same question just about every year. Now, we haven't had a very good tracking system in place, so usually the answer for that is no. So number one, this addresses that tracking system, which takes care of our obligation to the public, which is to make sure that if people have a license, they're not having issues. So that's one thing that this does. But the second thing that this does is it makes it so that if we were to get here, let's say, and it's reported that there's one incident with a liquor license holder, nobody else has an incident but one person. As a council, that might be something that we'd say, oh, well, maybe then we shouldn't renew. But all it was one incident. So having this suspension process, this fine process, makes it so that you have an opportunity to address it before we get to the renewal process. So you're not getting all of a sudden surprised with something. So I just want to be clear, in terms of my support of this isn't because I'm on a witch hunt against liquor license holders. My support of this is because I think our ordinance is vague and it needs to have some issues addressed. I don't want liquor license holders blindsided. So the idea is to move us away from that model towards transparency and predictability, both for the council and for the liquor license holders. Identifying specific violations, assessing point values, requiring notice and an opportunity to be heard. It's putting in that process so that if anything happens, you have that due process possibility. It creates a framework where problems can be addressed as they occurred, rather than just accumulating in the background, and then we get here and you get blindsided with all of a sudden the council is saying maybe we shouldn't renew. So I think it's better for our responsible license holders, which I have no reason to believe that any of our license holders are anything but responsible. If there are issues, you have clear expectations, you have early warnings. This is not a one-strike system. It allows for mitigation. It considers good faith efforts. It uses progressive discipline. That's a phrase we tend to use in the administration. The goal is correction, not punishment. The goal is being able to figure out how to solve the issues, not just saying punish people. If the license holder is operating responsibly, they're addressing issues when they arise, the system will work in their favor by creating a documented record of compliance and improvement. So if we do get here to renewal, we can say there was an issue, but we were able to document and show there was this improvement. So from my perspective, it's making the code workable, it's giving us clear standards, it has a consistent process. The enforcement, I think, becomes less subjective. One of the biggest dangers that we have in government is anything that's arbitrary and capricious. So we want to have things be objective. We want them to be fair and even across the board. So this provides the structure, the due process, the clear record. It protects the city, also protecting the liquor license holders from arbitrary or inconsistent decision-making. So I just wanted to say that because I had heard one of our liquor license holders saying, here, I've got to be here to try to protect my license. None of this is about anybody, I think, trying to take your license. It's trying to come up with things that make sense and to try to have things be more clear and avoid arbitrary decisions. So that's my reason for supporting it. Any other discussion?
Your Honor, last meeting, I asked if we could get some numbers on how many citations for liquor license violations that we've had over the last 5 years or so?
Your Honor, if it's okay, Ms. Harris, I know has been working with the court, and I know Chief Hurtado might be able to add if they can answer that question for you.
Sure.
Thank you, Your
Ms.
Honor.
Harris.
Yes, of course. Our municipal court clerk went back 10 years into her court records, and there were only 2 violations that had come before the court. One of them was for an alcohol compliance check where the retailer sold to a minor. The second one, she didn't specify what the violation was, but the liquor license is no longer owned and operated under that individual. So there have been 2 in 10 years.
That's the municipal court.
That is Riverton Municipal Court, yes.
I know as a state prosecutor, I dealt with a couple of years back, which is probably the last time we had compliance checks in terms of serving to underage individuals. This is probably 6, 7, 8 years ago. And I dealt with a lot of them then. I mean, we had, I want to say about 5 or 6. Now, mind you, those bartenders might not even be employed at those locations anymore, as far as I know. But that's part of the difficulty with just looking at the municipal court. Unless we request specifically that the police department would cite those through the municipal court to assist with.
So are you saying that the Riverton PD did a compliance checks, sting, whatever you want to call it, and they don't get filed through municipal court? They go
It
through
was
district
filed
court?
through the circuit court. Yep.
Okay.
And that's part of the reason why I was specifying we'd want to have that language. So it doesn't surprise me that we didn't have those with the municipal court. But, yeah. Chief, did you have any information to add to that?
Your Honor, really the only thing that I can say is we looked at how we can track our paper citations, and I got mean looks from our records staff trying to hand search written citations. We tried to do some searching through our existing computer system, and as far as I can see, going back 5 years, even though we only had computerized system on the E-Force for, yeah, it's hard to locate.
Can you tell me, when is the last time the police department has done compliance checks in terms of selling to under 21 individuals?
Your Honor, with me tonight is Sergeant Smits that was here before I got here, and I'm gonna,
Sergeant? Detective Sergeant?
Yeah, Your Honor, I don't have the exact last time we did one, but I believe your kind of recollection, approximately that 6 years, 6, 7 years, somewhere in there, might have been about the last time that I know about doing one.
And when those are done, is that based on a grant? I'm trying to recall how those were worked out. Was that a state grant or just general compliance?
I believe it was a state grant at the time that we had, that we would do the alcohol and tobacco compliance checks through.
Okay, so the last time you could probably think of is probably around the last case that I was aware of in terms of having a sting operation where you're having a 18-year-old who has a full beard going in and trying to buy booze.
Correct.
Okay?
in Your Honor, I also want to, I know we've talked about this in the past, but really, until recent, we've never been fully or near fully staffed where we're able to address some of these issues. So yeah, 5, 10 years ago is probably about at least 10 years ago when we're fully staffed.
What efforts have been made lately in terms of compliance checks, whether it's selling to those who are under 21 or whatever it is, from the police department?
Right now, it's been isolated to walkthroughs in between calls when our staff has had time to do so.
And then what would be your intentions going forward? I mean, part of the conversation that Mr. Bailey and I had was, it doesn't make sense to do something if it's just going to be a ordinance basically that sits on the shelf and nothing's done.
Right.
Tell me about, I guess, and I don't need all the details. I mean, certainly when you're talking about compliance checks, it wouldn't make sense to say, oh, we're going to have somebody out this weekend.
Sure. So one of the abilities of the role of our community service officers is to help address some of the regulations that this council has added, placed on municipal codes. So they've been able to do some of these and start looking at them. Again, they're not sworn officers, but they are community service officers, and they're able to perform limited functions to address municipal code violations.
And as far as you know, have all of the liquor license holders pretty quickly jumped on getting the training done, as we had just recently had that change in the ordinance for visible intoxication or serving to those who are underage, tips kind of training?
You know, I think with Mia's program that you brought, was it 6 months ago, I think everybody's pretty quick trying to get the training on board.
As far as you're aware, are you aware of everyone, all the liquor license holders getting up to date on that?
Your Honor, most of them have been very responsive. The one issue that a lot of them are running into is keeping staffing levels up to the point where they can keep employees long enough to go through the training. And that is probably the one concern that I've received from the license holders is they can't keep employees long enough to keep up with the training. But for the most part, we're in renewal season right now, and we are receiving proof of compliance from our liquor licensees at this point.
And I hesitate to use tips or say tips because it's not just under the ordinance. It doesn't require that it be tips. It can be something
That's
similar.
a brand of training.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of like calling it a Kleenex rather than a tissue, and I don't want to give the idea that's the only way to do it. My next question would be, in terms of what kind of changes, if this ordinance passed, what kind of changes would you have to make in your department, Ms. Harris?
Your Honor, as far as the violation of the point system, it would just be that we would need to work with basically the courts in terms of just keeping the communication system lines open through the violations. The points would not be assessed until they have been convicted of a violation. The only other thing that I would suggest is that the city clerk's office and the police department work a little closer with regard to incidents that have occurred at liquor establishments, and we can develop a tracking system. But our proposed code and law says that they're not assessed points until after they've been convicted of a violation.
And Chief, if there were going to be compliance checks going forward, I guess, just in terms of simplicity of record's sake, would that be something that the police department would probably put that through the municipal court rather than the circuit court?
I would think so, unless there's some type of issue that we think the municipal court couldn't address. I can't think of anything.
I guess, I mean, just in terms of the way that our code is, it'd be a lot easier to deal with it because of that requirement of notification.
Right. Unless there's some type of conflict of interest, but I would think that everything should go through the municipal court.
You're saying if maybe like the judge owned a bar and the prosecutor owned a bar, maybe we wouldn't want to send it through that way, right?
Right. I've had the opportunity to cite council members that have owned liquor establishments. Not here.
Not here. Oh, okay, I appreciate that. All right, any other discussion? I wasn't trying to hog it. Those were some questions that we had left over from last time. Just wanted to clarify. Mr. Bailey?
I guess, and I made this point last time, but again, I think there's some, we have 19 items listed that all can generate points. I guess I don't know, I assume we had something that we used to gain these 19 things, but I think we're adding points to things that are already required to have a liquor license. One of them is not paying your sales tax. Well, we can't issue a liquor license to somebody if they haven't paid their sales tax. And we can't renew their license if they haven't paid their sales tax. So I don't know that this really should be an item that we should points for. I'm fine with people getting points for selling to a minor or selling to somebody that's intoxicated or, failure to post your liquor license. I mean, that's getting pretty petty if you ask me.
That's required by state statute.
I know it's required, okay, but is that something we're going to take their license away for?
So I guess, and I understand what you're saying, the
Fail-
violation chart is already in there, it's just now we have points added to it, okay.
Right. I guess some of this to me seems a little petty. Sale of or delivery of alcohol to a person that's intoxicated is great. I think that's fine. Okay? Selling to a minor is fine.
You mean fine to be there, not fine to do?
Fine to be on the list, yes, not fine to do.
Wanted to be clear, if we have anybody from the media listening, Mr. Bailey did not say it's okay to sell alcohol to a minor.
And again, it's got it in here twice. Sale of alcoholic liquor or malt beverage to an underage person and delivery, same thing, but drive-in area conditions, I don't know what that is.
That'd be ensuring that if they have a drive-through window, that it has to meet the city ordinance requirements in terms of visibility or that sort of thing.
Okay. Sale or transfer of a liquor license without permission? If they do that, it's not valid, so I don't know. Making a false statement on a liquor license, that's already against the rules, and your liquor license wouldn't be valid if you made false statement. And again, most of these carried 25 points, which means automatically you've got $250 fine, which is something that you would get fined for originally if you did it anyway. So, I mean, you're getting a little bit of double jeopardy there. I know one's civil and one's criminal or whatever, but again, if we're going to use these violations as a way to determine whether we're going to renew somebody's liquor license, as opposed to just waiting till the end and going, you have 3 violations, we're not going to renew. It gives, I agree with the process of being able to come to the city and say, I had an employee that sold to somebody underage and they got caught and I fired them. Then does that get points? I don't think it should, because that's about as much as you can do as an employer. And as hard as it is to get employees, they're not going to do that frivolously. But if they're, failing to follow the rules, they're probably going to get fired. I know I have liquor licenses in other towns, and that's my rule with my company is if you sell to a minor or somebody that's intoxicated, you don't have a job anymore. And I hope that person gets fined if the police catch them doing that. I don't know that I should. I understand they work for me, but if my rules are clear, what they should and shouldn't do, and they break the rule, then it really shouldn't go against my license, I don't feel. Now, if that's happening 5 times in a year, all at my establishment, obviously I'm not doing something right. But I don't think, by how many citations we're giving, I don't think that's happening. Yeah. We have 2 in 10 years and maybe another 5 or 6 in circuit court. So, I mean, we're not averaging 1 a year. So, again, I think a lot of this is, and I agree with clarifying the rules. The rules are vague and fuzzy. One of the rules, it has to be the welfare of the people residing in the vicinity of the proposed license. Well, how do you judge that?
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to quantify, and I agree with tightening that up. But, we start out this ordinance change with, right in the first sentence, it says, it's the policy of the city to balance the interest of its residents and visitors to the city against the interest of the liquor license holders. Well, I think it shouldn't say against, it should be and the liquor license holders. Because if it's good for the city and the liquor license have a license and they're providing that service and they're doing it within the law, then they are providing a service to the city.
Is that a motion?
Sure.
Do we need to?
Let's change against to and. So it would be in the interest of the residents, comma, the visitors to the city, and the interest of the liquor license holders.
So you'd say
That
in
would
the
be a
interest
motion.
of residents, comma, visitors to the city, comma, and the interest of the liquor license holders.
Correct.
All right, so we have a motion to modify as indicated by Councilman Bailey.
Second.
I have a second by Councilwoman Brothers. Any other discussion about just that amendment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Nay.
I vote aye. Motion passes. So just to be clear, residents, comma, visitors to the city,
No comma, just
no
and.
comma, and. Oh, you're not going to use the Oxford comma? I don't know what to
Might
I
tell
was
you.
not an English major, but
As a lawyer, I have to advise you to always use the Oxford comma. It leads to millions of dollars of lost. Visitors to the city and the liquor license holder. So just to be clear, you were wanting to remove against the interest, so it's just balance the interest of its residents, comma, visitors to the city, comma, no comma, and the liquor license holders, right? Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Other discussion on the main motion?
Your Honor.
Councilman Carr?
I think it's important to realize, too, that we're not adding any regulations. We're just quantifying violations of existing code. We're not adding any regulations. So the day-to-day operations of any license holder won't change. In fact, their due process for if a violation occurs, while under the eyes of the law, they may be convicted. And I think it gets to Mike's point of, yeah, if you've got one employee that sells and sometimes you can't control that. If you've got 5, there's a systemic error. But that one-off, that under the eyes of the law, is still your responsibility, right? And that's unfortunate, but it's a fact. I think what this gives the opportunity for is due process to the license holders to say, that was a circumstantial case, and as what was the term for the hearing? The examiner. They can look at circumstantial or circumstance and take that into account, whereas the lawful conviction of the violation wouldn't necessarily take that into account. And so I think it benefits the license holders to be able to present their case. And as we move through a year-long procedure, if you've accumulated enough violations to get to three revocations, holy moly, that is a lot of violations. Something's clearly gone wrong. And I'll go back to my earlier comments from last meeting. We expect everyone to get to the end of the year with 0 violations. And I think by and large, we probably will. But when we don't meet that expectation, when performance has not dictated our expectation and what the performance was less than the expectation, they've had a lot of violations, that's where accountability comes in. And so, again, we're not adding any regulations. The day-to-day operations of liquor license holders will remain the same. They just keep doing what they're doing. This just quantifies those violations, all of them, and I agree, some of them don't make any sense. But they're under statute that they are a liquor violation, so we have to get semantical about that. But again, no increase in regulation. I think opportunity for license holders to present their case before an examiner after conviction. That's it.
Okay. Any other comment?
Your Honor, I just want to say I support our liquor license holders, and I really appreciate the fact that we've had less than one a year in the last 10 years. It's because you're doing your job and you're prudent about doing your job. But I was kind of set to vote against this tonight, but after listening to everything, I think it's a good thing to have these measures in place that are quantifiable. And I want to know if anyone has anything to say about this. Please.
You can come on up. If you could just introduce yourself for the,
Jana Peterson, I own Ralph's Bar.
Good.
I read through the pamphlet that y'all got, I guess, last meeting. Who is going to be the hearing official? It's in that, who is it?
well, here's the first thing I could tell you. So first off, we would probably not have it be the city prosecutor, the city judge, city defense attorney, or something like that. Generally speaking, I think what will happen is it would be, we'd probably advertise for it, and there'd be someone local that would be willing to be a hearing examiner. Now, I can tell you that I have, these kinds of hearings can go, they can become lengthy and become a couple of hours, or I just listened to one, not exactly on this, but on a different subject that went literally 15 minutes. So if you're talking about this probably being a local attorney that would do like we'd do a request for qualifications, and then we would select someone that would be assigned to these kinds of cases. In terms of how long the hearing would take, if I were to say, generally speaking, unless there's a lot of witnesses or that kind of thing, you might be looking at an hour, maybe two. Then after that, you're going to have an hour or two for them to prepare.
Okay, and the pamphlet says the liquor license holder has to pay for it.
If they,
So you're going to vote on something that you can't even tell us how much it's going to cost us if we go before the hearing examiner?
well, the thing that's hard about it is that it would probably be charged on an hourly basis. And so
What rate?
that's part of what the request for qualifications would be to do. You'd be able to find out someone's qualifications, you'd be able to find out more about why they would be a good fit for a hearing examiner. And I hear what you're saying. I had this conversation just yesterday with Mr. Delgadillo. And we could get a little bit more to you about that at the next meeting. But here's what I can tell you is it would be in the event of wanting to challenge it, that expense would become there. Depending on how many hours or what needs to be presented, it might change how long the hearing would go. So it's hard to be able to say how long. But I hear the question.
Okay.
I understand the concern.
In the pamphlet, I have questions about where it says the gambling. Okay, now I think you all know you're getting money from what we pay the state for the skills games. So are you consider that gambling or not gambling?
What I can tell you is that when they talk about gambling, it specifically makes reference to our code. So that's 5.04020, right?
See, there was a
Right.
C in.
Right. I agree with you. So that one says, no gambling shall be permitted in a licensed building or dispensing area. So I think these skills games don't count as that, at least under the state statute in terms of being called gambling.
Because we have the gaming commission that comes and checks them and checks that we're doing everything legal. So, I mean, I need to know what you guys are thinking they are. So,
Those
violation
operate,
number 3, I need your permission to list my bar for sale through a realtor? Is that what it's saying?
Ms. Harris?
Your Honor, you don't need permission to list your bar through a realtor, but you do need to get the permission of the city of Riverton to transfer the license to another entity. So if you were selling your bar and moving it to another location, you would apply for a transfer of location through the city of Riverton. But that doesn't mean that we require permission to sell your building. That's not the case.
Well, or even sell my liquor license. It has to go approval before it would even be transferred through the city, correct?
And you are correct in that. And there has been some recent discussion about the process which individuals are taking regarding the transfer of the liquor licenses or the sale of the liquor licenses. And I actually had a conversation with the Wyoming Liquor Division today, and they recommended that individuals approach the city council with their intent to sell their liquor license and get that approval ahead of time, because the council does have the authority to deny a transfer of a liquor license. So yes, there's nothing that's prescribed in code that says you have to do it that way, but it certainly would be in the best interest of both parties involved to seek that approval ahead of time.
Okay. Now, by state law, which all of the pointed items is state law, correct?
Almost, I agree.
There's a state law for minor attempting to purchase alcohol. Will the city enforce that if we call in when we have a minor trying to purchase alcohol? And we call and say, we have this minor trying to buy, will the cops come and cite them?
I would think so, Chief.
Yeah, we'll find out who it is and we'll get there.
You will cite them for minor attempting to purchase. Okay. It would be really nice as far as who the hearing official would be. It would really be nice to know, and it would be nice how much we would have to pay. My bar manager's here. She got hit with a compliance check 2 years ago. She passed. Nate Klein was the last one of my employees that failed, and he just came in the next day and handed me his keys, because every employee I have knows you fail on a compliance check, you are terminated.
Was that about 6 or 7 years ago?
It's, yeah.
I knew I recognized that name when you said it. Okay. That's good to know that that's how that ended up. That's very helpful to be able to hear that.
Well, every one of my employees know.
Well, I appreciate you, and I'm glad to hear that you had a compliance check and everything went well. That doesn't surprise me. I hear the question about the hearing officer. Let me try to find out more about that. We still have one more reading, but I really appreciate that, and I appreciate both of you bringing that up, because when it comes down to it, you want to know what it's going to cost. That's important.
Well, yes.
Your
You know, if
Honor.
it's gonna cost you $10,000 or, you know, a $250 fine,
Right.
you
Good
know.
point. Thank you.
Your Honor, I did just want to point out, number 10 says gambling or other prohibited acts. So it's illegal acts. So if you have someone in there playing poker illegally or something like that, it's not something that is sanctioned by the Gaming Commission.
Okay,
And it specifically says prohibited activities.
Good point.
thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Rafael Delgadillo. I'm with the River City Rendezvous. Thank you, Mayor, City Council, and staff. I spoke to you and Mr. Butterfield yesterday about my concerns about the hearing officer and the cost of the hearing. And my concerns is this, you know, a retail liquor license is an asset. And even though we're in a non-disclosure state, they have a price of 5 to 6 figures, depending on where you're at, what the market is. Anything that's owned like an asset like that is going to be very defended in case of any kind of violation, especially a suspension or revocation. It's important that the hearing officer that you have there understand the law, has litigated before, and knows that they have a very good legally tight case. Because what can happen is that if you go to a hearing and then I come before and I lose, currently as it stands, I have to pay the fine and I have to pay court costs. But then I get to come to the city council and to see if I can prevail there. If not, there's still probably going to be litigation because it's a valuable asset that I cannot let go. You know, I have a business that's got a building specifically for this type of activity. I'm going to want to make sure I'm safeguarded. Now, the idea of what the cost is, you know, I noticed that, for instance, on this other group, excuse me for just a second, it's the Construction Review Board. They have 8 people that sit and they listen. I don't know there's a cost for that. But why is there a cost for this here? To me, the way I look at it is that if you have a fine that's $250, the court cost shouldn't exceed that. Because what happens is that if the court costs get so expensive, I might take the violation even though I thought I had a good case to argue against it. Because then I'd be looking at the fine and paying for the court costs. But if the court cost never exceeded what the fine was, I'd be more likely to come. And if I lost, well, that's just the way it is. And it is an expense for the city, but it's kind of like one of the services it provides for its business community, cost of doing business. The other thing is that the hearing officer, if they are not doing it absolutely like a court case, they may not prevail in litigation in the future. And that makes it more expensive for the city. So I would say whoever you get has to be very careful about that. They're just somebody very well qualified. The other side of it is this. The hearing officer probably knows what the court costs are going to be. They're getting paid a salary. There's copies made. There's other kind of things that go on with litigation. And they have to remain impartial so that they can even look at the case and say, regardless of what it may cost the city, I think it's okay to go against the city on this particular one. I've heard mitigating factors, and so I'm going to rule in favor of the licensee. If you don't have the right person, that's their gravy train. That's their job. Now, if you can get somebody pro bono, that'd be nice, but I kind of doubt that that would happen. Anyway, those are my 2 concerns. And so if you could come up with some kind of an idea what the court costs are going to be, the hearing costs are going to be, it would help us decide how we move forward. And the other thing I was going to mention, 2 weeks ago, Councilmember Brothers, she mentioned something about should we revisit this in 1 or 2 years. Clearly, there's nothing wrong with the ordinance as it is. Yet we can be held accountable. The city has a right to make sure that its business people comply with the rules. But I would like to know if in a year or 2, if the problem is of public drunkenness and all these other attended issues still persist, we know it's not a retail issue. It's really a people issue. And in my experience, most of these issues are people issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Delgadillo.
Your Honor,
Councilwoman Borders?
I really like how he brought up about the commission. So could we maybe create a board and people from the city could apply for those positions? And they could be that hearing board where these could be brought forward to minimize the costs.
Volunteer board?
Volunteer board.
An interesting idea. The only issue with that is, so part of the reason why I was saying that this would probably make sense to have it be an attorney is we're talking about ensuring that the Administrative Procedures Act is followed. And, you know, if this is something that did result in down the road in a license being revoked, we want to make sure we're doing it right. Not that I'm saying volunteer boards can't do it right, but there's positives and negatives. Could be opening ourselves up to litigation down the road.
Your Honor, at least the city should be able to just say that, you know, I know when you go to court for speeding tickets or something else, you know, the court fees are set. It doesn't have anything to do with what the judge is getting paid or whatever, I think. I mean, I think the city could set a cost and just say, okay, it's gonna be $100 or whatever. Even though the city might be spending more than they get charged. But again, I think the fee cannot be excessive to the point where it would make somebody not want to come present their case for the fear of paying the cost.
It's a fair point. What are your thoughts on that, Mr. Butterfield? I mean, as I had indicated, what I had envisioned was a request for qualifications. We'd have someone who would actually be appointed and would be available. Not that they would necessarily be used on a regular basis, but that it would be someone that I would think you would probably select.
Your Honor, this is your decision to make. I think you would do well to have someone that's qualified to write a findings of fact and conclusion of law. And remember, this isn't a court proceeding, because the court experience would have already occurred through the municipal or circuit court. The conviction will have already occurred for the violation. This is more an opportunity for the license holder to have an impartial hearing before whoever you choose as a governing body to say the court acted appropriately and considered all the facts necessary, or they did not. And it has to be something that's not arbitrary and not capricious to the benefit of the license holder. Therefore, I think you, as a council, would benefit from having someone who understands how to interpret state statute and also is able to go through and provide that finding of fact and conclusion of law, even in the reference of court cases. So if you feel a lay board could do that for you, you can change the ordinance to reflect that. If you feel that it would be someone else, you can write the ordinance as you see fit.
Councilman Carr?
I was just gonna say real quick, I mean, we could do both. We could set a price on a, estimate an average, go through the list. Because that was one of my issues with the ordinance as written, was it doesn't clearly define what is that cost gonna be. It says they're gonna have to pay, but it could get out of hand a little bit, maybe. But if we were to put pencil to paper and come up with an average, we might go over sometimes, we might go under, but it would probably be a wash, especially given the frequency of the occurrences. And then at that point, say, the hearing could be $200, whatever it is. And then also write into the ordinance that the city on an annual basis shall, or a biannual, whatever we think would be relevant, shall request qualification statements from individuals from the community qualified to X, Y, and Z, and that will be your selection or your examiner for the next year, or a pool of examiners.
I was going to say, it probably would make sense to have a pool.
Yeah,
I will say, if you're talking about 4 hours, is just my guess, you're at least 1,000. You're not in 10,000, but we need to find out more about that.
Yeah.
And I do like the idea of, if not having it be a set amount, you could say what the maximum is.
yeah,
Those are also good ideas, so it's pretty clear, no matter what. In no event would the liquor license holder, if they choose to contest this, be required to pay more than X dollars.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Because in Ms. Peterson's example, her ex-employee sold to a minor. He got cited for it. She would have had a offense against this ordinance and gotten the 50 points or whatever it is. But she needs the ability to go to this hearing examiner to say, he did it, he come in the next day and quit. If he wouldn't have, I was going to fire him. And then the examiner could say, okay, you did what was appropriate, you're not going to get any points against you, or you were.
15 minutes done.
And we'd want
I mean,
somebody that would be willing to do that.
Yeah,
The
you-
point isn't to be getting someone who's just going to say 300 points. No, the point is to
Right.
have
I
someone
mean-
who's going to listen.
You know, what would your estimation of the amount of people speeding in Riverton, Wyoming in the last couple of weeks compared to a year ago, since we now have full-time traffic officers out running their lights up and down the street? Okay? The incidents are gonna go down because they know it's being enforced, they know that people are paying attention. And again, that's what I said last meeting is, we need to start just enforcing the rules, and I think everything else will take care of itself. The employees that are willing to do that are not gonna be there anymore.
All right. We've been talking a bit. Oh,
Your Honor,
please.
I'll let her speak.
And I would maybe suggest that since it's a minor involved and the minor's paying a lot of money for these very good IDs these days, that the scanners that they have don't even pick them up, half of them. So it's not like we don't have the utensils to do it. They're just not qualified to keep up with the good work of the guy making the IDs. So why can't we make the minor pay those and be more responsible for his actions or her actions as well?
Well, I think that was a good question that was posed. If we're told there's a minor in the bar trying to buy booze, are we going to have the
Are we
law
gonna have
enforcement
that, yeah?
officers come and cite them? And I think the statement was, call us. But I
think
agree
that
with
the
you.
word of the minors, that once that started happening, that would all go away.
Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
I think that gets back to my comment about circumstantiality. If the fake ID is so good that the scanner can't read it,
Don't pick them up.
under the eyes of the law, that's gonna be a conviction. They still sold to a minor, even though it was a fake ID, right? But you could go before the examiner and say, can you tell the difference? You know, my scanner can't. And then they can say, okay, yes, we're not gonna assess the points, or it'll be reduced because of that circumstance.
I just feel like the minor that is involved in this situation should be held of higher standards, you know.
Well, and I think that would be what
That would be a great start.
I think
Get
law
it under
enforcement would
control.
do that in that set of circumstances. I feel pretty confident they'd cite them. Thank you. Councilwoman Johnson?
I would just echo what you talked about. I am supportive of this. I think it gives more detailed information. I think it gives a better way for liquor establishments to come in and plead their case if that's what it may be. And I think as a general reminder, as Mia said, liquor licenses are a privilege. They're not a right. And if we so decided as a council, we could make Riverton dry if we wanted to, and affect every liquor license. But we are encouraging them to have their businesses and operate them. We're just asking you to operate them with in a responsible way. And there's three parts to accountability, I feel, in this whole situation. One is accountability to us as city officials to ensure that the community is safe and that we're ensuring that the regulations are being followed and met. The liquor license holders have the responsibility of following the regulations that have already been set forth by the state. We're not changing any of that. There's also a third component to this, and this is the individual themselves that are breaking the laws. There needs to be accountability to them as well. But this specific ordinance that we're talking about, I think, covers both us and the liquor license holders. So I support it. I think that having numbers and tracking systems and ways to defend yourself and be able to come forward and say, you know, they did this and it wasn't my fault, we corrected it, or they left, or whatever. Nobody who is reasonable is going to assess points in that aspect. I don't see any reason to charge for them to come in and plead their case, quite frankly. There's very little currently that's being looked at, and I have a feeling that's going to change. But currently, as it stands, there's very little need for them to come in and do this once or twice a year. If that's even the thing, then why don't we just budget to take care of it? But I don't see any reason to charge them for that.
It's a good point. It would get rid of some of that.
I mean, they're already
Being up in
facing
the
a
air.
fine. They've already gone to court. They're already getting points assessed if that's what the case is. And if they end up losing that case, why make them lose even more money in the process? I don't feel that's right to penalize them twice for the same thing.
I agree.
You should just be able to have a hearing before a board of peers, and anybody of reason would say this was not the owner's fault. But make sure you correct the issue and let's move forward.
Your Honor, I would just add that they've already been convicted, right, in a court of law, so that part's been done. Now we're deciding if we're going to assess points or not. And I think a peer review board could do that just fine, a volunteer board of community members, maybe some attorneys, I don't know. But I think charging these people after they've already paid a fine and had legal fees is just a little over the top.
Well, and then F says city administrator or designee appoint one or more hearing examiners. I guess, Mr. Butterfield, we're giving you that discretion if this ordinance were to pass. What would be, how would you use that discretion? Not to put you on the spot. And if you don't have an answer right now, maybe we could talk about it.
Your Honor, typically when someone goes through the administrative rule process, the hearing officer is someone who is qualified to do so, that, as stated before, has an understanding of the law and the Administrative Procedures Act. And so, as it's currently written, and if you ask the question what my interpretation of that would be, it would be to seek a qualified or licensed hearing examiner so that impartiality and objectiveness is strictly observed, that people's rights under the law are protected, and there's an understanding of pertinent case law and procedure. So if your question is how would I have interpreted that, it would have been that way. If the council wants to decide who pays the cost of that hearing examiner, you have every opportunity to say the licensee would cover that cost, the city would cover that cost, they would split that cost. The prevailing party wouldn't have to cover the cost, or however you want to handle that. But if it is a professional that is conducting the hearing, someone has to pay them. And so you can choose who that would be. If your other course of action is to have a lay board, you can go that route as well, but understand that that lay board may handle that hearing differently than someone who is trained as a hearing officer.
Yeah, and I know she's not here tonight, but Tana Groomsmith would be beneficial, I think, in this conversation. As it relates, she provides the tips training. She's fully aware of alcohol regulations and licensing and all of that stuff. It might be beneficial to get her input on it as well, and she might even be somebody of interest that could sit on one of those boards or as a hearing officer, I don't know. Just a suggestion.
So here's what I would say. Right now, the ordinance as it stands says that the liquor license holder would pay the whole cost. That's created some worry. The other option we could have, as noted by Mr. Butterfield, would be the prevailing party would not pay the cost. So in other words, if the liquor license holder challenges it and they win, they don't have to pay the cost. If they lose, they'd have to pay the cost. The other option would be the city cover it completely. The other option I could think of that we had kind of discussed would be a maximum, where you'd say, you could have some language in there that would be the liquor license holder will reimburse the city for the cost of for the actual cost as demonstrated in an invoice or something like that, listing the hours and the time. If you haven't hired a lawyer, lucky you. But based on the actual hours spent, up to a maximum. So you could say up to $1,000 per incident you would have to reimburse. Those are all the options. As it stands now, where we're at is the liquor license holder pays it all. So if what we have is the council would like to select another option, we would need a motion in that regard. And then we start talking about that and figure out where we're at.
I move to do the prevailing party.
The prevailing party does not cover cost.
The prevailing party is the, whoever wins the case does not cover the cost.
Okay. So that's your motion would be to change it and have language such that the prevailing party would not cover the cost. We have a second for that?
Second.
Second? Okay, we have a motion by Councilwoman
And if it's-
Brothers.
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
and if it's appropriate, I would offer a friendly amendment that we say, with the cost being a maximum of $250 if they don't prevail.
So you would have it be a combination. So it would be a maximum of $250 and
If they
for
prevail.
the
it would be
non-prevailing
done.
party. That's the word I was looking for, the non-prevailing party. Geez, it took me a
Double negative, yeah.
The non-prevailing party would cover the cost up to $250 per incident,
Yes.
per hearing.
Yes.
Okay, is that clear as mud? Is that, so that's your motion, so to speak. Your motion was just for the non-prevailing
I'm
party
good
to
with
cover
that,
costs.
yeah. we
Yeah.
can-
You're good with the 250? And we don't have the language in here. We could come back and finesse it more, but
Your Honor, just for clarification with that friendly amendment, so the council is choosing to cover the entirety of the cost of the hearing except for a potential $250 liability.
I think
So
that's
the maximum
correct.
liability for the person calling for the hearing is $250, and the city bears all other costs when a hearing is called. Is that the intention of the council?
Yes, Mr. Bailey? Yes, Ms. Brothers? Mrs. Brothers? Okay, yes, that's the motion. All right. So, let's talk about the motion.
Point of clarification, so if they are the losing party and they pay $250 and they're issued points, they're going to pay for the points as well.
Yeah, that's true.
I just
They
want
could
that
be-
out.
If they're the non-prevailing party, and they're having to pay the $250, let's say for the first incident, then it's kind of turning into $500, if they choose to contest it. It's a fair point. Okay,
Your Honor.
any other discussion?
And I just might bring up a point. If the council is concerned about the financial implication against the licensee, there's nothing to say that you have a financial penalty with the attribution of points. That is just consistent with your conversation previously, especially as the council was looking at ways to objectively hold violations or licensees accountable. But if the worry is financial hardship for the licensee, you can choose to not have any financial penalty as it relates to the attribution of points. And it seems that we're getting to the point of there's a violation and we want to track it against the license holder. But if you're then worried about any financial penalty or consequence against the licensee, you can change that if you so choose.
I see what you're saying. You're saying if we're sitting here and we're talking about, well, you're talking about accrual of points as well as a fine. So specifically, if we're looking at I-1, 25 points in a 12-month period, receive a $250 fine, any cost for a hearing. You're saying at the council's discretion, we could just say any cost for a hearing and 25 points. I mean, it's going on the record as 25 points against them. And then number 2 would be like 50 points would have to pay for any hearing, but that would be it. They're getting 50 points. Right?
In Your Honor, I'm just bringing that up because I'm sensing from the council a concern about the financial implication as it relates to this ordinance. And if the worry is a financial implication, I mean, you're focusing on the hearing component, and then you're maxing the hearing component, and then putting the burden on the city to pay for the hearing. And then you're tying it back to, well, they're already paying a fee after a conviction is found. I mean, those are other avenues you can explore if the financial side is something that's concerning to you.
Okay. All right. Other discussion regarding the non-prevailing party covering cost up to $250. Mr. Bailey.
And I guess we do need to remember that the hearing examiner can also waive the penalty, which means they would decide in favor of the license holder, and then they could waive the penalty and the points. And if that means they prevailed and this amendment is successful, they would not pay any court costs because they were successful in their argument. So in the example of Mrs. Peterson, her employee got fined in civil court or in court for selling to a minor. She, as the business, did not. But she's going to risk getting the points for that offense against the license. So if she goes in, pleads her case, says, okay, the guy quit or I fired him, and the hearing examiner says, fine, that's the appropriate thing to do. You've never had any other violations. I'm going to say you don't get 25 points against you and you don't have to pay a fine. And because you prevailed, you wouldn't have to pay any court costs. So if she did what she's supposed to, her cost would be zero, other than her time of arguing her case against the hearing examiner.
Right.
If she did say, oh yeah, sell to anybody who walks in the door, and they find the employee, and then they turn around and fine her and give her the points, and she would have to pay for the hearing because she lost. Whereas in the lottery, they tell us to say non-winners. It's sort of like non-prevailing.
Yeah.
It's an expression. Councilman Larson?
I don't know if the hearing officer can overturn the court.
That's true, but we are talking about two different penalties, right?
Well, we're talking about hearing officer overturning a court ruling. And in that, if the bartender was fined and somebody sought to fine the bar owner because he was cited at the same time, he was in the back room, he was there, but he didn't notice anything was going on, he would be cited also at the same time. He would be an accomplishment. He would be an accomplice. So now we go all the way through and we find out that the perpetrator of the act was solely responsible. He was terminated. Then the hearing officer goes in and said, well, yeah, you were. And so we're turning over we're asking for fire insurance in a desert where there's nothing to burn.
Your Honor.
I mean, we've had, just a minute, we've had how many opportunities in the last 10 years to enforce what we've had on the books? And I've been here since, well, too long, 2013. We have never had a situation that we spent 3 hours on. Haven't had it. And why haven't we had it? Very simple. We don't have a boom going on here. We don't have young kids that come home from the rigs to spend their money. We have an adult, higher age group of people that are living, and we don't have this situation that we're legislating for. Is there some unknown boom that's going to come here? I mean, I'm not aware of a new $4,000 or 40,000 square foot that's going to hire a bunch of teenagers that want to go out and get drunk. I'm not aware of that.
I hear you.
And this, and the part about, yeah, it delineates and everything else, but so far, nobody has ever felt impressed in the last 13 years to add the delineation to something like this. I mean, the person was terminated. Hey, that's pretty good. End of report. I mean, if Mike has a problem with a tire changer, he terminates them and et cetera. We have to have responsibility, as somebody has said, on the bar owner. And the bar owner has to come before us every year to pay money to operate selling liquor in the city of Riverton. And we know that there are not a lot of rich people because we've got bars that are closing. We've got liquor licenses that are being held and are going out. So now we're going to penalize them more?
Well, and I think, I appreciate that. Let me, Councilman Carr, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say that there's a distinct difference between the conviction of the municipal court or the circuit court versus the licensee's ability to plead their case for the point accrual and the resultant fine that carries. Two completely different situations. And so we're not in a situation where we're overturning or we're overruling the court system. The conviction stands. But the ability for the license holder to present their case to avoid the potential point accrual does not appear in the court system. We're writing that into the ordinance so that they have the ability to present different circumstances maybe than they could have in court. So it offers them much greater opportunity.
Well, and rather than having it be something that the council would have to be in charge of, so to speak, right? Because as it stands
Yes.
right now, it would be us finding out about it, us doing something about it, us saying that, oh, well, you're suspended or you have to pay a fine.
Yeah. And
All right.
I like having the maximum. Yeah.
Your Honor,
Yes, ma'am.
if I may. I just want to respond to Councilman Larson here. And perhaps you're unaware of it, or you just aren't following along, or you're not being made aware of it, I don't know. But we do, I'll finish, please. We do have issues here, and
Show me the
that-
data.
okay.
I want the data.
All right, this month, on December 8th, how many juveniles were listed in the paper with BAC? Well over the legal limit. Some of them triple the legal limit. I believe there was 6 that was listed in the very first column, number 1. Number 2, after last week's meeting, I received correspondence from an ex-bartender with documented photos, dates, and times of violations, which I have now shared with the police department to look into. So just because you're not made aware of it doesn't mean that it's not occurring. Now, I'm not blaming the license holders for every juvenile that's out there drunk, but it's a key factor in what's going on. They're getting it from somewhere. And until we assess points and alcohol compliance checks, all we're asking is for the license holders to work with us and be more aware. That's it. If violations unintentionally occur, then anybody in the right mind would say you don't deserve the points. But whereas there are violations actively and knowingly occurring, we have to have some kind of tracking system that said you've been cited, you've been convicted, and this has happened more than once, on multiple occasions, on different dates, with documentation. We're not going to renew your license. And it's much easier to say, we're not going to give you your license if we have proven facts.
All right. I appreciate the discussion. Let's vote on the motion regarding the 250 maximum that would be assessed against the non-prevailing party. All those in favor of the motion as it's been presented, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay.
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 All right. I vote aye. Now, we're back on the main motion. I feel like we've been talking about this quite a bit. I know there's more that we could talk about. We still have one more reading. I do think we were trying to be responsive to some of the concerns that have been expressed by our liquor license holders. Oh, yes, you were trying to come up. Feel free to come on up, please.
Nancy Leveski, local resident. About this second reading of this proposed ordinance, I'd like to do 3 things. I'd like to make an analogy, I'd like to highlight a few things that were talked about tonight, and I'd like to use those highlighted things to paint a picture for how your choices tonight and in the future may be perceived. My analogy is thus. You're talking about putting a new, exceptionally complex, difficult-to-use doorknob on a door that's been opened twice in 10 years. So, difficult to justify the effort and thought that's going into it. 2 instances in 10 years through the municipal court, an unknown number of instances through the circuit court, because as some of you have pointed out, we can't compel the circuit court to do anything. We can't compel them to report to us. We can't compel them to abide by our ordinances. Apparently, it's more difficult to mine their data and get information on the same time period that it is the municipal courts. So part of the ordinance is basically useless if the circuit court isn't compelled to communicate and comply with us. Conversation was had with the local PD about a lack of compliance testing in recent years and a desire to do more of it. And then the proposed ordinance lays out a groundwork for the city council to collect fees on an annual basis with no real effect. A liquor licensee can accumulate 50 or 75 points every year with little to no effect on their long-standing relationship with the city council or their possession of their liquor license. But that would allow the council to collect $750 a year in fines from them. And working in conjunction with the police department on consistent 6-month compliance checks, it becomes really easy to be perceived as instituting an environment where, like Mr. Butterfield said, in Laramie, they see points going on to licenses after every round of compliances. It's very easy to be perceived as generating compliance issues, to fuel fines, to circulate back to point recalculation, resetting at the end of a 12-month period, do it all again. Again, all of this for a door that leads to a room that 2 people have been in the last 10 years. Seems kind of frivolous to me. So that's what I've got.
Appreciate it. Thank you. All right.
Take a 5.
Well,
We're 2.5 hours in.
Yeah, we're 2.5 hours into our first real item on our agenda. Let's vote on this and take a break before our next one. Any other discussion? Last words? All right, all in favor of passage of ordinance 25009 on second reading as amended, say aye.
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 Those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
I vote aye. Motion passes on second reading. We'll come back and talk more.
Your Honor, may I please get a vote again, so
Yes,
I've got it record,
please.
for the record?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Aye.
Okay, great. Let's take a 5-minute recess, since I don't want to be here all night.
Who did I miss?
You don't?
Actually, let's do 8 minutes. We'll come back at 9:30.
Several suggestions and input which were brought forward, in particular the issue of those who choose to overconsume alcoholic beverages to the point where they are usually the ones who commit crimes later that day. Staff and council made several suggestions to review of several ordinances from several other communities in the state. The proposed ordinance provides a requirement the timely reporting to law enforcement of those persons who are ejected from a licensed establishment due to intoxication, as in Riverton Municipal Code 504140. The proposed ordinance would establish guidelines for the licensee, manager, or employee to the Riverton Police Department of those who are ejected from the establishment. Including your packet is the proposed ordinance, and tonight, council can make several choices, including propose alternative language to the ordinance, make no changes to the municipal code, or take other action as deemed appropriate by the council. And that, Your Honor, this can be real short or very long meeting, and I'll stand for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Administrative Services Director, if you could please read ordinance 25010 by title only.
Yes, Your Honor. Proposed ordinance number 25-010, an ordinance amending Title V, Business Licenses and Regulations, Chapter 5.04, Alcoholic Beverages, by creating Section 5.04.070, reporting requirements for licensees, and providing for an effective date.
I'd entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Larson with the motion, Councilman Bailey with the second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. I vote aye, motion passes. I declare the public hearing is open. Hearing will be conducted in accordance with state statutes and other applicable laws. I'd ask individuals wishing to address the council to approach the podium, identify yourself for the records. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak? Yes, please, come on up. And even if you used your 5 minutes last time, we'll give you another one on this one.
Thank you, because I've got 2 pages to read out of our bar diary.
Perfect.
Any of you guys that's taken the tips course, you know they suggest this.
And just to remind everybody, what is your name and
Jana Peterson, I own Ralph's Bar.
go ahead, Janet.
My bartender entered this into our bar diary. Date is 12/10/25 at approximately 10:30 p.m. Stacia Potter, who had been drinking at the wooden table peacefully, came up to Robert Felter and began getting mouthy with him. I told her to leave him alone. She then turned her attention to Christine and Amanda and began trying to threaten them. I told her to leave again. She went over to Ken, and again I told her to leave again. And she became threatening to me. I told her if she didn't leave, I would have to call the cops. She didn't leave, so I called RPD. While waiting for RPD, she kept threatening Christine, Amanda, Ken, and myself. She went to the table, grabbed a pitcher full of beer, and began walking towards me. I knocked it out of her hands before she could throw it. She picked it up, broke the handle, and began swinging it at me. Christine, an unknown guy in a gray hoodie, swinging it like a knife. I pushed her back with my foot so she couldn't stab me. She threw the piece of plastic and ran to grab an empty beer bottle. I grabbed it first because I thought she was going to throw it at someone. I grabbed the bottle. She hit me over the head with an empty pitcher of beer. She went out the door and began fighting or arguing outside with someone. I called RPD again. They found her and charged her with battery and trespassed her. My bartender had cuts on her arm. Why was this lady only cited, not arrested? You know anything about the case?
Janet, no. There's 100 calls a day, and I don't know every call that the officers respond to. But if we can sit some time tomorrow and go over this particular one.
Okay.
I appreciate that, and I think you did the right thing, calling law enforcement.
Well, and my bartender told me it was over 20 minutes before they got there. Now, you guys are wanting us to call them every time somebody gets booted out of the bar? Why?
Right. Thanks for letting us know. So your concern is with this ordinance, you're saying if this were something where we're going to be doing a lot more calling,
Yeah?
if I'm making a call with this kind of incident and it's taking them 20 minutes, it doesn't make sense to be doing a lot more of that. I hear
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
Briefly, I'm Raphael, delegate of the Oak River City Bar, thank you. It's intoxicated and unruly. And the question I had is how you define the intoxication. And the reason I bring this up is because if you look at the proposed ordinance in Lander, they do give a description. It's a little severe, though, the kind of behavior a person could get away with. The way they describe it is staggering, weaving, sleeping, vomiting, speaking incoherently, obscene speech, offensive gestures, or any other indecent or obnoxious conduct or act. Quite frankly, at this point, they wouldn't be in the bar anymore. They've already been asked to leave or 86th. And we would never call Wind River Transit on a person like this because there's different levels of impairment when you're intoxicated. If you're unruly, you're a danger to the driver and other passengers. So we wouldn't do that. We try to give them a ride or a taxi or whatever we could try to do. But I would just like kind of a description that's not so severe in the description of an intoxicated person. Something that we could really look at. Now, quite frankly, anyone in the retail, anybody in the liquor business knows when somebody is intoxicated. We've taken tips training, and that's good. But if that could be used against me later for points, how do I defend myself on that? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Delgadillo. Anyone else who wishes to speak from the audience? Come on up, sir.
Not going to pronounce his name.
No, I tried last time and I messed it up so badly, but you can remind me every time and I will work on it.
I really want you to try.
I always want to say Lazowski, but that's
Chancey Wilzeski, Riverton.
Zeski.
Zeski.
This one caught my attention. I did come here for the second reading of the previous action item, but this one caught my attention reading it. Fundamentally, I'm generally opposed to any addition of governmental oversight or addition of responsibility placed on private entities or business owners. But this one, fundamentally, the ordinance as it stands is completely unenforceable and virtually pointless, bordering on unnecessary or unreasonable. The licensee and all of their agents can completely subvert this ordinance as written, because as business owners in the state of Wyoming and the country of America, they have a right to refuse service to anyone for any reason that does not apply to any federal, state, or local discrimination policies. So to write an ordinance that says once a person is rejected from a place of business or their business is turned away for a specific reason, like intoxication, the ordinance is made completely moot by the fact that a licensee and their agents can just choose to reject service to these people for any number of other reasons, completely sidestepping and avoiding the ordinance entirely. As written, completely unenforceable, completely unfollow-up-onable, and 100% avoidable by every licensee and every agent. So that's my statement.
Thank you, Mr. Wilzeski.
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 There's an L in there.
Ah, my goodness. I don't know how I keep on messing it up. Wilzeski. Wilzeski. I'm just going to write it down how it sounds to me. Wilzeski. I appreciate you coming up and speaking. I hope you understand that, and even though I've butchered your name so many times, I'm going to keep trying. I probably will. All right, anybody else who wishes to speak?
Seeing none, Your Honor, I'd move to close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion to close the public hearing by Councilman Carr, second by Councilman Bailey. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. I vote aye, motion passes. Declare the public hearing closed and entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 25010 on first reading.
So the noise was deafening.
What? I can't hear
The
anyone.
silence was deafening.
That is correct.
All right, we have a motion by Councilman Carr. Do we have a second? If we don't have a second, this would just die for a lack of a second, and we're done.
No discussion.
All right. If we don't have a second, then motion without a second, like a dog without a bone. I don't know, there's not a good analogy. All right, well, that dies for a lack of a second. That's our last item on the agenda. Do we have anyone that wants to move to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
I'll second.
I'll be quiet.
Yeah, you should.
I caught myself.
You just be quiet.
I caught myself.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Borders, a second by Councilman Bailey or Councilwoman Johnson?
Me.
Just Councilwoman Johnson. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. I Vote aye. We are adjourned at 9:46 PM. Before 10 o'clock.
Oh.